So good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, where we'll be discussing why you should study MS Accounting before taking the CPA exam. We have a wonderful panel from the University of Colorado, Denver here joining us today to help you learn more about what is it that we need to know about MS in Accounting. We have a wonderful panel here today. We are joined by Catherine Gunny, who's the Program Director for MS Accounting. Good morning, Catherine. Very nice to have you here today.
Good morning. Nice to meet everyone.
Wonderful. We're also joined by Kemi Ajay and Mingi Chen. Both of them are assistant professors of accounting, and we're very, very glad that they could join us today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
And of course, Enrico is here to help us, tackle a couple of questions that students might have as well. And we have Kanimoji, who's a student here at the CU Business School, and would love to hear a lot about this at CU Denver from you as well. Okay, great. So I think, Catherine, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to, direct this question to you. I think the first thing that we would really, really want the students to sort of understand is if you could take us through what exactly, is the course like, what's the duration, what will people really learn if they enroll for the MS Accounting at CU Denver?
Yeah. So, well, one thing to note is that the accounting program at CU Denver is one of a few business schools that have their accounting program separately accredited with the AACSB, which is an accreditation body in the United States. So there's a lot of, high quality things we have to do to get separately accredited. So what the program will look like, well, you'll definitely gain the fundamental skills you need to succeed in an accounting career. Those skills will be there. You'll be taught by high quality faculty. But with the master's degree too, not only are you going to get those fundamental skills to succeed in an accounting career, you're also going to get the skills you need to succeed in a business profession. So the critical thinking skills, the understanding accounting at a higher level, and being able to work with other professionals that might not be in accounting. These are all going to be tools that you need to succeed in an accounting career. So you will get all of that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for telling us what the course would essentially entail. I think just sort of adding on to that, I would also want to talk a little bit about the CPA exam and why actually studying an MS in accounting becomes extremely important if you want to take the CPA exam. I'm sure a bunch of students have that question. Would you be able to take us through that as well?
Yes. So a master's is an integral part of the CPA exam because in the United States, you need 150 hours of coursework to sit for the CPA. Typically, after your undergraduate degree, you have 120 hours. So with the master's program, you're going to get those additional 30 hours to be able to sit for the CPA exam. So the CPA exam, to be able to sit and take the exam, you have to earn those credits. And our program's designed to ensure you get those credits and you'll be able to sit for the CPA. So you'll have the knowledge for the CPA and you'll also have the credits for the CPA.
Understood. And actually that makes a lot of sense, why one should consider doing this if they're also looking at, taking the CPA exam. Okay, wonderful. Vinky, I'm just going to bring you here and I want to ask you a question. I think there is a lot of talk about why we should do the course and what advantages it will have. A lot of students end up asking us, but what are the possible career options in the US that one could sort of, look at exploring once they've completed their master's in accounting? So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So I always tell my students, once you have the CPA certification after your name, it just opens doors for you. So, you can work in public accounting, private accounting. Every firm needs an accountant. So you have many job opportunities lined up for you. And what I want to add on to what Catherine said about the hours required for CPA exam, our program is also tailored to get you ready for the CPA exam. And for those of you who are not aware of this, the recent structure of the CPA exam in the US has just changed, and we change our curriculum to make sure you are ready to take it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for answering that question.
Can I add one thing too?
Catherine, yes.
Yeah, so we get you ready for the CPA exam. You know, accounting isn't like many professions where you have to be licensed. You have to have your CPA to get a job. But I think the interesting thing in accounting is if you get your CPA, there's more doors open to you. I've had students say that this job does not require a CPA, but the company is looking for a CPA. So getting a CPA will help you earn more money over your career. It'll also help you get more interesting jobs and higher level jobs throughout your career.
Mm-hmm. And
yes,
sorry.
Yeah,
I was an international student myself, so I know that for international student, being able to get a work visa is very important. And our MSA program was recently a STEM certificate, means you can get a 1-year extension from the H-1B lottery.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And I think that that's also very important for our students to know that, because it just gives them, that much more of an opportunity to take up this course. So Catherine, on that note, are there any other certification exams that a potential student can take, during the course of their master's in accounting?
Well, I think some of our students take the management exam where you can get certified in management accounting. These certifications, I think, are good along with the CPA exam. So I think our focus is on the CPA exam, but if a student is interested in these other exams, we can help them explore those paths.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Enrico, I'm just going to bring you in here on that note because, Catherine mentioned about giving students that support to be able to take the exams that they need to take. Could you tell us a little bit about the different ways in which, the university offers support to international students?
Yeah, so we have a international student scholar center. So we are, as a campus, about 8% international students. So our International Student Services Office is very, very familiar with working with international students. India is actually our largest international market, especially in the business school. There's international student clubs. So they have a really good support network among their fellow students, as well as with faculty and with different opportunities throughout the campus and the business school. I also want to introduce, I invited my colleague, Erin. She works in our Business Career Center within the business school, and she runs our Meet the Firms Day for accounting students. So I want to give her a chance to talk about that as well. And any career services or any questions about careers after, Erin would be a great resource to answer those questions.
Wonderful. So I think we would love to hear from Erin about a little bit more about this.
Sure. So Meet the Firms happens twice a year, and it is for accounting students. So this is the kind of career fair that is created for accounting students. It has firms that are hiring for internships and jobs. And so it is set up like a career fair where you can just go to meet the firms, talk to them about the opportunities that they're hiring for, and network with them. I think a big part with accounting is the recruiting timelines, that they recruit about a year to a year and a half in advance. So if you are looking for internships and full-time positions after graduation, it's helpful to know that recruiting timeline, and Meet the Firms is the perfect place to network for those positions. So it just happened this week, earlier on Monday, for positions that would be starting in summer of 2024. And then we host another Meet the Firms in the spring semester for different types of opportunities that the firms will be looking for. So it's the perfect event for accounting students.
Yeah, and one thing to mention too is we had about 40 firms at the Meet the Firms, and all the big four accounting firms were there. all of the national audit firms were there. And then we had a lot of firms in the Denver area, big firms that hire for accounting.
Wonderful. And, on that note, I'm also a little curious about the accounting summer leadership program that you run. I would love to hear from the person who can really, help us understand what this is all about.
I'm happy to jump in.
Yes,
So
thanks, Erin.
the summer leadership programs happen for students to, within accounting, the summer leadership programs often turn into internships, which often turn into full-time roles. And so that's kind of the purpose, where you can gain experience in accounting if you're still deciding between tax or audit. You can do a summer leadership program, which gives you a sense of the firm that you're working for, what the culture is like, what the work might be like that you're doing. Hopefully from that summer leadership program, if it fits for you and the employer, you would get an internship offer. And then hopefully, again, if that fits for you and the employer as well, you would get an offer after graduation. Oh, you're on mute.
So sorry about that. I'm also very curious about, the career events that you host, and, your students get to meet the people from the top companies. So, I would really want, Kemi, if you would want to take this up and really help us understand what these career events really look like and how do they end up benefiting all the students from the program.
Sure. So we host every semester at least a couple of career events. For example, in this fall, we got students to go to the KPMG office, and KPMG is one of the top 4 accounting firms, and just 4 sessions. So they get to hear from people from KPMG. Sometimes faculty presents, and just kind of also a networking event for students. We've had career panels where we had representatives from the accounting firms, or either public or corporate accounting firms, and they come to talk to students about career options. What that looks like in accounting after they graduate. So again, we have a couple of those during this semester.
Great. And just on that note, really would want to maybe, if anybody really has some stories to share about, some international students who potentially came to do the accounting course in the university and then, really benefited from all these sort of different events that you're offering to them and just sort of went on to, have extremely successful careers or like a great starting point. Would love to hear from someone about, some of these success stories. Catherine, do you want to take that up? Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, so I think with the event we had at KPMG this spring, one of the women that was presenting at the event is an intern at KPMG. And she came here and she did a summer leadership program with KPMG. Then she got the internship offer. I know she's completing her master's this year, and she has a full-time offer from KPMG, and they trusted her so much they had her present to the students and tell them what it was like and help recruit other students. So we have a lot of international students that make it to the Big Four. Many students, if they go into accounting, they want to go to a Big Four audit firm. So we've had several students take that route and become very successful in the Denver area.
Great, wonderful. Now I'm gonna, Kanimoji, I'm gonna pull you in a little bit, and I really want to talk a little bit about student life and student experience in general. As an international student, what is it like being on campus? And Indian students really would like to know, just in terms of what are the different things to do, what is campus life like, and, how could you potentially maybe join some clubs and take part in other activities. So if you could just share some of your own experiences, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So as an international student, first to begin with, it was a little bit difficult to, like get accustomed to the customs and culture here in the US and to be familiar with what's actually happening in the campus. And uh, it was a little bit rough in the first 2 months, I would say. After that, once I started getting to my classes, I made sure that I take only offline classes. As per the visa status, I'm supposed to be enrolled in offline classes. Apart from that, I also ensure to take rest of my classes in offline, because that way I get to meet my professors and meet all my fellow students in person, because that's the sole purpose of me being here. Because if I wanted to do it online, I would have done back in India. So I would recommend everybody to take offline classes first, because that opens up new opportunities. We would never know whom we are talking to, because so many of the grad students here work full time. So if you have that rapport or the friendship with them, it just takes you places. So that would be my first recommendation. Once I started being in campus or on campus, like most of the times, I got to know so many resources that my university is providing, like the club, the other learning resources, or the SGA, or so many other events that are actually happening in the campus. Every single day, there would be a single event on my campus, be it in the business school. Even yesterday, we had a career fair in business school that was focusing on consulting. I was a part of that. And I got to know all these because I was in the campus most of the time. I just went and spoke to so many people in the campus, not just Indian students, but students from all over the world. And I got to meet so many new people. And Erin is my career counselor here, and she helped me understand and overcome my fear of talking to people and networking. She just said, just go sit there, observe the environment, you'll get used to it. That's how you start talking. Because I was not this person who never talks, but I talk a lot back in India. After coming to the US, I had this anxiety, but she helped me overcome it. And now I can like go to anybody and talk, brand myself, market myself. And I also ensured that I follow the emails that my universities are sending. So they send me emails about the clubs, the events, the career fairs, or anything new that's happening on the campus. And there are so many opportunities that the business school provides, like the case competition, on-site visits to Big Four or any other companies that are inside the Denver and outside the Denver. We have been to TIAA in New York, a 2-day trip. That was because I was a part of club in the business school. So I got that opportunity. I was there in person. I saw what they actually did. As an international student, it is very important for us to understand what's actually happening in the US and understand how they want us to behave when we actually graduate and be a part of their organization. So these are the things that I followed. So that really helped me, because I know quite a lot of people in the campus, because I made sure I pushed myself to be on campus. I know it's very difficult to get up and come to the campus and do all that, but you have to do that to, like get yourself in the radar of so many people. And that's how you become successful. And I also think the way you dress and show up matters a lot, especially in the US. They see how you dress up, how you talk to people, how you present yourself. Apart from the education in itself, all these things are important. I know everybody can study, everybody can score a GPA of 3.5 or above, especially if you're from India, because we are trained like that to score marks and get good grades and all that. Indian students can do that. But I think they should focus on their other things apart from actually, once you get here, you might have so many distractions, especially coming from a background where we are always monitored by our parents. And once you come here, you have so many options to get easily distracted. Please don't do that. You have to focus yourself and get yourself straight into what you actually want and where you have to go. And if you're clear with all those things, there are so many people who can help you here. So that's my view and that's my experience. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the wonderful advice, actually, for all the potential students in the audience today. And I think they'll really be able to connect with what you're saying, because what you've brought out is actually reality for a lot of Indian students and how they live their lives here versus how, potentially it could look like in the US. So thank you so much for taking us through that. Erin, just on that note, I would want to ask you, because, Kanimoji mentioned that you're mentoring her and, you've sort of really taken this opportunity to sort of nurture the students that come into the university. So I want to understand a little bit about how one can really have that one-on-one session with you or other counselors in that sense to really understand what their personal career path would look like, or just to review what the trajectory they're on and how they can improve and the things that they can do.
Yeah, Connie, thanks for saying all of that. It's great to work with you and good to see you on this call. Students can really come to us for anything related to career development, and that means a lot of things. So we have one-on-one appointments that are the biggest thing that we do in the Business Career Center. And we really talk about each student's individual experience. So what Connie needs support with is different than another student. So that's how it can really be different and how we can work with students individually. We can work with anything from resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, to networking and support for their job search and talking about anxieties and stressors that they might have to help them just be successful. Does that answer all your question? I feel like I had more to say, but.
No, I think it's also important for students to also feel safe in that sense that, it's a new country, it's a different country, it's a different experience. But just to know that there will be people there to look out for you, to sort of handhold you a little bit through that process, I think it just instills a bit of confidence. So I'm very happy that you sort of spoke about that. Okay, so I think, Catherine, I have a question.
Something along that lines. Can I add something? Because I think in accounting, our career paths are pretty well defined. So I think the accounting department does a lot. And Connie, thank you for mentioning those things. I mean, the coursework is the coursework, and your professors are going to help you through that. And I think we have fantastic faculty that are really connected with the students. But with these other things, I think for accounting students, they need support with the CPA exam. Like, how do you do it? How does it work? How do I understand what's going on? What courses do I take? I think we help you a lot through that, and the advisors help with that too. We also have those events that we have with the firms and the panels that we have. Those events, about half of them are tailored to what do you need to know about the CPA? Because a lot of planning goes into preparing for the CPA. So about half of our events are tailored at trying to give you the information and help you understand what that path for the CPA looks like. And the other half of our events are tailored towards, the basics, like what should a resume look like? What is the appropriate dress for interviews? How should you answer questions? So I think we spend a lot of time on that. And one thing that wasn't mentioned too is that we have these career events. We have the Meet the Firms where you're constantly in contact. We also have an accounting group. It's called Beta Alpha Psi. Mm-hmm. And this is where the students meet every single week on these topics. And it's a great way to get to know other accounting students. It's also a great way to network with the firms. I've had students in the past that at these Beta Alpha Psi events, they maybe were interested in, let's say, an energy career, and they talked to someone from SM Energy, a Denver company that did that. And that kind of sparked a coffee meeting, and then it sparked a job offer. I think with accounting firms, like the big four accounting firms, they have a process that you need to go through to get a job. It's typically not just from, coffee. That's like the initial meeting, but they have a very formal process. So, these events that we have will help you network and learn the formal process that needs to take place if you want a big four job, or it'll give you the opportunity to have these meetings with people at other companies and the networking that leads to jobs. So I think our focus on the students is, yes, giving you the coursework, but also giving you access to careers and giving you access to information to help you succeed on the CPA exam.
Wonderful. And I think access is so important because, like you mentioned, that the coursework is the coursework and that's something you do. But then it's always important to have that sort of, holistic experience also while you're pursuing your master's. Catherine, on that note, I'm very interested to know, is there a particular type of student that is most suited to take up this course, just in terms of like what you should have had done previously in terms of requirements or just kind of interests? Is there a student like that?
So you're asking if, yeah, so I think we support different tracks. And I think Bing Yi mentioned the different tracks on the CPA exam. There's a tax track, there's a financial track, now there's a data analytics track. The core of the CPA is the same, but then you specialize in one of these three tracks. So I think, if you come from a background, from what I understand, many of you come from a BComp background, an accounting background, you'll be well suited for one of these. You just need to see like what your interest is. Am I interested in tax? Am I interested in audit? Do I want to do a more data analytics focus? That'll map to, what you choose on the CPA. It'll also map to what you choose in your career. And I think the master's program is, if you have that accounting undergrad foundation, you can be successful in any one of these three tracks.
Yeah, to add on to that, so the requirement of the CPA, regardless of where your degree is, but the requirement is you need to have certain hours of undergrad accounting courses.
Understood. And just asking a little bit on that note, is there a way that, if they don't have a certain number of hours, do you provide certain courses or certain, certain electives that they can take to make up for those hours?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think we have prerequisite courses for the master's program, and many of our students, so our program is unique in that we get a lot of career switchers too. So someone that maybe didn't like engineering, or maybe someone that didn't like their art degree and wants to find a job. We have kind of a path to get you, those prerequisite courses you need before you start your master's degree. Absolutely. We're very well suited for that.
Wonderful. And that would be a great point for everybody to note that, it shouldn't stop them from trying to apply and trying to pursue this master's for sure. I can see a lot of people have started sending in some questions. And at this point, I would encourage everybody to start sending in your questions. As you can see, we actually have a wonderful panel here today, and we can get a lot of good answers from everybody here. So I'm just going to quickly, Enrico, direct this question at you. I think a couple of people want to know this. They want to understand the fee structure and the costing for taking up this course at the university.
Yeah, so we have Colorado resident tuition and non-resident tuition. So there's not a separate international tuition. International students would fall under just non-resident. Our tuition is based on credit hours enrolled per semester. So our programs are self-paced. So if you're in one class per semester, if you're in two classes per semester, if you're in three classes per semester, you'll know what your tuition is every semester. Our International Student Services Office will assist with I-20 forms and give you an estimate both with tuition, with any financial aid, with scholarships, and also cost of living. So students will have all that up front, and they should know what their cost is, not only every semester, but every year.
Okay, great. I really hope that answers some of the questions that came in. So Arundhati also has a question. She's saying that I'm doing my articleship in India. Is MS accounting something I should pursue? So if somebody could sort of help her understand that question a little bit better.
What's her undergrad? What is she pursuing right now?
She's saying she's pursuing her articleship in India.
Okay. I am not sure what that is, but if the question is, should I pursue an accounting degree? I think yes, absolutely. For anyone that's interested in accounting, it is a fantastic career because they always need accountants. I mean, the jobs we have at the Meet the Firms that we just had last week, there were so many firms. I talked to one national firm and they said, we have as many internships as we can fill. And typically those internships go into full-time positions. So there's lots of jobs. There's lots of interesting jobs. The pay is very good starting salaries for accounting professors. So, you're making an investment in your education, and this investment is going to pay off. You're going to be able to get a job that provides, a high paying job, lots of career advancement opportunities. And I think if you're interested in accounting, absolutely, this is the career to pursue.
Okay, great. I hope that answers Arundhati's question a little bit. Okay, so someone wants to know, what about the one-year master's scheme that is newly launched by the government of India in collaboration with the United States? I'm not sure if we are able to answer this question, but if anybody knows about this, would love to take this up. Otherwise, we'll definitely get back to you on that and let you know what that would entail for sure. Okay, so Catherine, there's another question that's coming up. Somebody wants to know, could you please tell us about the kind of profiles that are offered to CPAs at the Big Four in the US?
The type of what? Sorry.
The type of job profiles, career paths that they could potentially be offered at the Big Four?
Okay, so at the Big Four, there's usually 3 tracks. It's either audit, so you'll be auditing public companies' financial statements or private companies' financial statements. You'll go into tax, which you'll be doing auditing the tax, or there's another field that's consulting. Now, I think audit and tax are pretty straightforward what you'll be doing. It just depends on which companies you'll be doing it for. The consulting, I think, is a very broad field, and there's many things you can do there. So there's certain things like if you've specialized in information systems, maybe you'd be going in and consulting and helping the companies with their information systems. Maybe you'd be consulting with maybe internal controls. So that one is a very broad, and I can't speak to exactly what you'd be doing there. But if you have another skill, like let's say if you have a law background and then you have accounting, that consulting piece, there'll be a job for you there in which you can specialize in helping companies become more efficient, become more profitable, all those types of things.
Okay, great. Thanks, Catherine. Enrico, I'm not sure if this is available, but you could answer this question. Somebody wants to know that they're looking for a dual master's in finance and supply chain management. I'm not sure if that's available, but you could answer that better.
So we do offer dual degrees. Any student with an MS accounting can do a dual degree with another MS degree or any of our MBA degrees. We do have an MS finance. We do not have an MS in supply chain. We have a course in supply chain, but not a actual full degree.
Great. Okay.
And I also want to add the advantage of doing a dual degree is you can attain both master's degrees, whether that's an MBA and an MS or 2 MS degrees, in fewer total classes, fewer total time, and fewer total tuition than doing them individually.
Understood. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think a lot of students also come up with these questions, and Kanimoji, maybe you could take this up. They want to know that while they are studying, at the university, are there any on-campus jobs that they can take up, or are there any paid internships that would be available to them?
Yeah, definitely. There are so many on-campus job opportunities with CU Denver. They just have to look in the handshake and then ask around in the campus. And I know it's a frustrating process. It just takes a lot of time till you get an on-campus job, since there is so much of competition right now. There are so many students especially from India. So there's a lot of competition. You just have to be smart, approach the hiring person, just go to them in person, send them an email, and then keep trying. And that's the only thing that we could do, because we are legally allowed only to work on the campus. So we just have to give our best in finding one. And yeah, you can take the help of the career center to modify your resume to the US standards and system, and then get help from them to make your cover letter ready, so that once those two are ready and refined, I think more job opportunities can come in your way, and you have to just come and talk here. You just have to know more people on campus so that they'll help you find a job, or just ask your professors if there are any TA positions or something like that. So I think that would help them, apart from just applying online and then leaving it. So you just have to take steps for that. Yeah, and that's how I got my job.
Okay. Thanks so much.
And
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I can add on to that. Students like Kanimoji, who take a little bit of initiative and go meet people and do the networking, talk to people outside the classroom, join student clubs like BAP. Those students tend to do the best when they are looking for on-campus work or even career opportunities after, during or after their degree.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Kemi, I'm going to bring you here, and I just want to understand a little bit about how the course really sort of plays out, how, in the sense that what sort of balance I think do you maintain between actually being in class and sort of, looking at the theory and the theoretical side of things, but also sort of having that on ground reality experiential learning as well. Could you tell us a little bit about how you balance both these two things, and how much do you think, how much importance do you place on both?
Yeah. So I think, across the program, all of our faculty do a great job of, covering the content, which has to be there, but also, with assignments or projects, bringing in kind of real world examples. So for instance, we've all incorporated data analytics into our accounting classes. And so in each class, there's at least an assignment, sometimes a project that involves data analytics in accounting, and based on what the class content is. And so I teach accounting information systems. And so part of what I like to do in my class is also give students an exposure to, software systems that an accounting systems are based on. So for instance, we have assignments where students will work with an enterprise system, and, a real world enterprise system. And so, I think, again, all of our faculty we're pretty good throughout the classes in doing that kind of exposure. So, yeah.
Great. And honestly, I want to ask that because a lot of students do end up having that question that, are we going to be sitting in class and learning, or are we really going to get some real world knowledge while we're out there? So thank you so much for answering that for us. On that note, okay, so Enrico, someone has this question: could you share the eligibility criteria to enroll in the program, and are there any sort of advantages that the student can experience once enrolled in the program? My guess would be to sort of understand if there are any scholarships, any sort of financial aid programs that you offer, if you could share that as well.
Yeah, so eligibility, any student can apply to the program. We do have a minimum GPA. International students do need to do a credential evaluation, which would convert that GPA into US standards. Any standardized test like a GMAT or GRE is not required. For students who are not fully admitted without it, it may be requested to continue their application, but the application is looked at individually and as a whole for every applicant. There are going to be scholarships available, and actually our accounting program, due to their relationships with private industry and private donors, actually have a lot more scholarships even compared to our largest program, which is our MBA. So there are a lot of scholarship funds available for accounting students. And I also want to add, going back to the CPA, the MS accounting program was designed to lead to the CPA. So not only will you have the necessary credits, but the necessary accounting courses. Anybody who did not come from a business background, the question was asked earlier, we do have the common body of knowledge business courses that we can offer to supplement the MS accounting courses. And then I don't know if any of our faculty can speak to this, but going back to design for the CPA, we actually had a student about 2 years ago who scored, I think, in the top 1% in the CPA exam and won a national award. I don't know enough about it, so I don't know if any of our faculty can answer that.
No, that's right. They give an award to students who score in the top certain percent of the CPA. And one of our students that graduated about 3 years ago won that award. So we were very proud of that student.
Wonderful. And I think that also would probably encourage the students that we have here today to sort of, follow in the footsteps of that student for sure. Okay, so Binky, I'm going to bring you in here and just want to understand, since you are taking classes, you're interacting with these students a little bit. Just would love to hear from you, just in terms of, as an international student, what can one really expect for school life to really look like? What would the class structure be like? How would a day look like? Because I think the way a master's or an undergraduate program runs in India would be vastly different from how it would run in the US. And since you also have that international student experience, it would be great to hear from you on that.
Yeah, sure. So I did my own master's in the UK, and I'm originally from China, so I like the countries, the experience in the three countries are completely different. So in the UK and China, where you are enrolled in a master's program, and typically there's a full-time program where you go to classes during the day and then you work on your assignments and night projects, and student life, of course, is another part of it. But here, what we offer in our MS program, most of our students either work full-time or have a part-time job. So a lot of our classes run in the evenings. So for example, I'm teaching a cross-listed class this semester, international accounting, where half of my class are from the MS program, but they all work full time. So our classes run from 6:30 to 9:30, where give you the flexibility for those students who still be on campus, like meet in person, doing the in-person classes. At the same time, it's not a disturbance to their daily working life.
Great. Thank you so much. And I feel like you've had a lot of experience, studying in 3 different countries in that sense. So it's good to hear from, people who would really encourage Indian students also in that sense to get that sort of comfort that if they're leaving their country, because a lot of them would be leaving their country for the first time and experiencing a new country in that sense. Enrico, I think someone also wants to know a little bit about if there are any app fee waivers or any sort of other, offerings that you have for them. If you could just tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so we understand that there is a cost associated with the credential evaluation. Depending on which credential evaluation, it can range from $175 to $275. So when students submit that credential evaluation, we automatically waive the $7 or $75 application fee. And then also starting spring 2024, the business school, solely from the business school, we are going to offer international students a $300 credit once they enroll in their first class, just to not only offset the application fee, but that credential evaluation.
Great. And I think on that note, could you also share a little bit about the process, the application and admission process with the students who've joined us today?
Sure. And anybody who wants to contact me, I'd be happy to send a link to the application and any further details. But the application is pretty straightforward. Once a student starts an application profile, we'll hold that application for up to 1 year. So students can revisit it or add to it as they're ready or as they have materials ready. Students can start the application and submit the application at any time during that 1 year period. Obviously, they want to keep in mind the deadlines for whichever term they're looking to start. It really comes down to 5 components. 3 are required, 2 are optional. Transcripts and the transcript evaluation. Current resume, work history is not required, but it can boost an applicant's admissibility. There are 2 essay questions, which are very brief. And then the optional items are going to be a GMAT or GRE score. And then also optional letters of recommendation. For any student, I always encourage at least 1 letter of recommendation, but again, those aren't required.
Okay, thank you so much. Catherine, I have a question for you. So the MS in accounting is, of course, offered in multiple universities. If you could talk a little bit about some of the differentiating factors at the University of Colorado that really make this program at this particular university, more of a lucrative sort of option for the students who come here today.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of distinguishing factors with the CU Denver business degree. I think one is, there's under 5% of business schools have a separately accredited accounting program. And we have a separately accredited accounting program. I think that speaks to the quality of our faculty. So when you come here, you'll be taking classes in person, but you can also choose to take a few classes online just for convenience. Some students will take a mix, but typically our international students take more in-person classes. But I think our online faculty are the same as our in-person faculty. So no matter what you choose in our program, the quality of the education is going to be quite high, regardless of the modality. And you'll have that flexibility to do that. I think also what sets us apart, I think we do have a very high quality accounting faculty. We have PhDs from Berkeley. We have PhDs from now I can't think of it, but we have high quality faculty. And I think the other thing is really that Bingy and Kimmy, help me out. Where'd you get your PhDs?
Austin University.
University of Central Florida.
The University of Central Florida. So we have really high quality faculty that were trained very well. So they can give you that foundational accounting education. They can also give you that high level, what it's going to take to succeed in accounting education. It's not just, you're not just in the weeds. We're learning the weeds, and then we're going high level. And that's what I think a lot of the accounting firms are looking for when you interview. You can tell them about a project you did that was based on real world application. You can tell them about some things in your class where you worked with your classmates. So that's going to give you the edge in, what they're looking for. They want you to, when they're interviewing you, they want to know what skills have you learned to help you succeed in this job, right? And we're going to give you those skills in accounting. And I think the other piece of this, since we are, our school really does a very good job because we have a lot of multicultural students. We have a lot of students where they're the first generation in their family to go to college. Because of that, we have a very good support system. Like what we were talking about, you're coming from another country. You might not necessarily know how things work, but we've been kind of providing that support and telling students how things work, even for our US students, that might not have that history where their parents were in business, their parents were in accounting. There's a lot of institutional barriers to get over to getting a job, to having a successful career. And we have that support system built into our program to help students succeed, not only for the international students, for our US students too. So there's a lot of symmetry there where we can help students. We're always kind of having information systems. Networking might be anxious. You might be anxious to do networking when you first get here, but we're going to give you so many opportunities and so many different ways to network with the firms, whether it's a panel and you can go talk to people, whether it's meet the firms, or whether it's our accounting group, Beta Alpha Psi, where it's a little bit smaller of a group and it's going to be a one-on-one information session where you're going to get more comfortable with that partner at a Big Four accounting firm. So I think that's what sets us apart, is because we've been providing that support to our students for several years now.
Yeah,
Thanks so much. Yes, please.
I will add on to that. So I used to teach at a private school at a Boston area. So I think a unique advantage to CU Denver is has a diverse, very active business community, but Denver doesn't have as many colleges like Boston do. So it's a huge plus to our students where you have a lot more opportunities.
Right. In fact, that was going to be my next question to just ask about, because we've heard so much about this community, this business community that's thriving. And, I would love to hear a little bit more about that, just in terms of maybe opportunities that could arise, in the area itself. Catherine, Mingy, do you guys want to take this?
Yeah, so I think Denver's been growing. I mean, Denver, it was considered a second-tier city compared to Chicago, Boston, San Francisco, New York. But right now, we've been growing over the past 10 years. Our jobs, our businesses have been growing. All the big companies that you can think of, Apple, Google, Microsoft, they all have satellite offices here. And those satellite offices, either in the Boulder, Denver area, those satellite offices are growing and growing and growing. So we have this incredible increase in jobs. And as Bing Yi is saying, we don't have as many colleges. So what we get is, our college students have this advantage with the growing business market. We also have a lot of people moving from San Francisco, from Boston, from New York, because our city, the livability of our city is great. We have all of these cultural things that we can do. We have, professional sports. We're smaller than New York, Boston, or San Francisco, but we have, professional hockey team, baseball, basketball, football. We have, the art museums. We have the, botanical gardens. We have all of those things. And the cost of living is still lower than those others. So we have, to me personally, we have all of these advantages, but then we don't have the costs in terms of, the traffic, the cost of living. You can actually afford to live in downtown Denver, whereas in New York or in San Francisco, I'm from San Francisco, you'd always have to commute because you can't afford to live where you work. Denver's still somewhat reasonable compared to these other cities. And I'm sure Bing Yi can speak to this moving from Boston. I moved from San Francisco 15 years ago.
Yeah, for students, for one bedroom, you probably pay only half of the rent compared to living in Boston.
And the salary is commensurate because they need people.
And that's so important, right? Because it's important to understand that you could potentially be getting a very high salary, but your cost of living could also be potentially very high. But if that sort of balances out, that sounds like a great opportunity for everybody. Okay, that's absolutely wonderful. I've had such a great time chatting with all of you. And of course, some of the students had some questions that we took up as well. And really, glad that so many of you could join us. It gave us very different perspectives, whether it was, coming from you, Catherine, or Enrico, or Mingy, Kemi, and of course, the others who could join us today. And looking forward to doing more such sessions with all of you. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you
for having
Thanks,
us.
everyone.
Thank you.